For those who still holding the myth, let me just say, if this tiger used to be toothless, I can assure you now, the tiger been to the dentist. So this tiger doesn't sleep. It monitors, investigates, and take action.
Welcome to the season 2 of the Legal Insight podcast by HQ. You are now tuning in to episode 23. Right now, I know that you are going to find this episode to be a bit special, which is true. I'm Johnson. I'm a host for this particular episode. Why is it so special about today is because we are going to launch a very special edition, which we are going to call it as the Malaysia PDPA Authority Series, in which we are going to feature none other than Professor Dr. Nazri, the former Personal Data Protection Commissioner. As mentioned earlier, I'm Johnson, the head of Technology Projects Group, and today I'm a host, and as usual, I'm very happy to be joined by my good friend and also a very good-looking partner, our co-head, Law Kai. So today, to be honest, is an absolute honor for us to have Prof. Nazri, the PDP Commissioner, former PDP Commissioner, joining us. And then today, the intention of this is to, of course, to really dive into the PDP landscape in Malaysia, and at the same time, to really honor and also to appreciate his leadership, his thought, his insight, and most importantly, his contribution in developing and also building the Malaysia PDP landscape. If you are following the landscape, you will certainly know that 2025 is a very special year because this year we are fully implementing the PDPA Amendment Act 2024, and with that, there are a lot of new amendments, there are new guidelines, new circular. In fact, at this time of recording, 3 major PDP documents and guidelines have just been released just a few days ago. The DPO Competency Guideline, the Management of DPO Training Service Provider Guideline, and last but not least will be the DPO Professional Development Pathway and Training Roadmap. And to be honest, earlier this year, actually both Kai and I, we have the absolute honor to be invited by Prof to join as part of the drafting committee in drafting, refining, reviewing, and also ultimately launching these 3 PDP documents and guidelines just a few days ago in Penang. So we really want to take this opportunity to really say a huge thank you to Prof. Nazri and also Kai for joining us in this show. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Really good to have you all.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Johnson.
Thank you so much. Let us jump straight into this episode. So let me just provide some big context. So basically, for this very special Malaysia PDPA Authority Series, because it is not easy for us to actually have the former PDP Commissioner. So in order for us to really get the most out of this recording and also this very exclusive special interview, we are going to split this series into 3 parts, in which in the first episode, we are going to be talking a lot about the current landscape. Why are we having this type of amendment, especially for this year, and what are we supposed to be expecting in the future? And the second episode, we'll be talking a lot more about the new mandatory DPO appointment requirement. Because as you know that by 1st June, companies that meet certain requirement will need to appoint a DPO already. And yet, there are still a fair bit of confusion towards, can I outsource? If I'm going to outsource, who am I going to outsource to? Can I outsource to a law firm? And right now, there's a DPO competency guideline that have just been published. So there are KSA for us to understand as well. So that will be discussed a lot more in the second episode. And last episode, we are certainly leaving the best in the last episode, in which hopefully Prof. Nazri will be kind enough to also lift out the curtain a little bit by sharing a bit about data breach notification, especially the investigation and the inspection process, something behind the table, and most importantly is like assuming after I notified what actually happened at the other side of the room, and also we want to understand what is the latest data breach trend that's happening in Malaysia and how companies can really prevent and also to ensure that all data breach notification will be well managed and well handled. So Prof, as mentioned earlier, this year is really a very, very special year, not only for legal practitioners, but I would say that actually for all companies as well. Because for the longest time, PDP 2010 has been implemented, but last year, something that actually changed and shocked the world, because a new law, PDP Amendment Act 2024, was introduced, and then this year has been fully implemented. And then with that, there are a lot of new requirements. For example, the DPO mandatory appointment, data breach notification, the right of data portability and whatnot. So suddenly, it's like right now, we are suddenly not only catching up, we are really trying our best to actually meet and to match the global privacy standard, such as GDPR. So we really want to understand that actually why all these changes is actually happening right now. And also, if Prof, you can be kind enough to actually shed maybe one significant change that you think that will really move the needle to really help us, our country, our nation, to meet the global standard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, and also to the team, HHQ, for inviting me to be part of these important conversations. I'm truly honored and delighted to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my thought and experience in the data protection area. For information, currently I'm joining this session as a capacity of professor from UTM. I'm very pleased to contribute to this discussion from academic and also professional experience. Okay, back to your question, Mr. Johnson. You are absolutely right. This year has been truly transformative. And I would say that we are witnessing now not just a change, but a significant overhaul of the PDPA itself. Since its inception. The impact of this PDPA amendment is already being felt, and I must say I'm very happy to see the landscape is no longer moving, but now it's sprinting. If I may, I would like to share the current landscape through three lenses. First, in terms of the awareness and engagement, we are seeing major shift. In the past, PDPA awareness was largely driven by the Commissioner Office only, but today, it's coming from many angles, from the industry player, from the regulators, even from you guys, industry practitioners. Also, university now has begun to embed the data protection topics in their syllabus.
Wow.
And I believe this is such a wonderful development for building future capacity. Next is Malaysia Commissioner Office is gaining international visibility.
Yep.
We have been formal recognition through membership in APEC Cross-Border Privacy Enforcement Arrangement and also the Asia Pacific Privacy Authorities. So now we are moving towards another recognition through Global Cross-Border Privacy Rules System, which is another important milestone for the country. On a personal note, in 2024, I was honored to be appointed as one of the co-chair for the establishments of Data Protection Authority Forum for OIC countries. This reflects Malaysia's growing leadership in this space. Third, our very own PDPA legislation has been updated, as we all know. So I believe the updated one is not at par with the EU GDPR, Japan APPI, or even South Korea PIPA. So, however, we are moving somewhere. And I believe that this is a living document and we will improve it from time to time. Now, your next question is why it is happening now. If I may share, one of the major drivers is the National Digital Transformation Agenda.
Okay.
The way we collect, process, share, store personal data has changed significantly compared to the previous era. Back then, there was little emphasis on digital transformations, AI, deepfake, blockchain, or even post-quantum technologies.
Yep.
But today, the landscape has completely changed and our law must evolve with it. Now, if I have to choose one single change that truly moved the needle, I would say the mandatory of appointment DPO.
Yeah.
Why? These requirements brings a real change to the table. It creates responsibility within the organization by ensuring that there is an officer to overseeing the compliance of the PDPA in the organization. It is truly a game changer, embedding a culture of privacy and governance in the country.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, one of the point that I couldn't agree more is actually one phrase that Prof you used earlier. So for this year, we are not only seeing that the PDP landscape is moving. In fact, we are sprinting.
Yeah.
And then when we are saying that we are sprinting, usually a lot of time for lawyers, we have multiple months just to interpret the same law again and again. But for the very first time this year, multiple guidelines, multiple circular are just pumping out. So a lot of lawyers, they don't even have enough time to actually dissect, to actually understand what the laws are. So lucky or not, we are really sprinting, and a lot of companies, they are really paying real attention to that already. So just want to go a bit deeper. So there's a joke that I always carry around. In fact, it's not a joke. So in fact, I mean, before this interview this morning, actually, Prof, you asked me, actually, when did I actually started my practice in PDP, and then how did I actually start? So as mentioned, I started this practice 10 years ago. And then when I first started, I just started in PDP, convention law, and fintech. So most lawyers, when they start their practice, they will only choose one practice area. For example, they can be doing employment, tax, construction, and whatnot. Whereas for me, actually, it's not that I don't want to specialize in one. But back then, my PO master make it very clear to me, say that, look, Johnson, if you want to become a lawyer, you can never specialize in PDP law alone. The reason is because companies, especially in-house counsel, they are simply not paying attention to PDP law. And most of the time, companies, they are not even willing to allocate legal budget for PDP law. So my boss, my ex-boss was telling me by saying that, look, if you really want to do PDP, sure, but you have to pick another 1 or 2 practice area. That's why I was involved in corporation law and fintech. So, but coming this year, that couldn't be further from the truth, because especially with the amendment of PDPA Act 2024, right now we are actually seeing a numbers of companies reaching out. Actually, they have allocating budget for PDP compliance, PDP regulation, and most importantly, a lot of time they are willing to actually spend budget to train the senior directors, to train the senior management. Most importantly, they want to do a full-blown gap analysis to understand what is missing within the company. And also, at the same time, they want us to help them to implement the PDP documents and whatnot. But at the same time, there's still another group of companies who are actually thinking, look, actually PDP is just paper tiger. They are actually thinking that PDPA, otherwise PDPC office or JPDP, whatever you call it, they are saying that, look, for them, there's never any enforcement. It's just paper tiger. You can have it, you can ignore it. Nothing will ever happen to you. So I would say that this is the public myth number 1. So of course, when we want to start the topic, I want to start strong. So let us address this. Is this a public myth, or is this a real fact that PDP never has any enforcement? Is it a paper tiger that there's nothing will ever happen even if you totally fail to comply with PDP law? So how will you respond to it, Prof?
Wow. Now we are diving into myth territory.
Yes.
The infamous paper tiger myth. So some like to say tiger without teeth. Some people like to address a toothless tiger. I believe you are aware that I served as a commissioner of the PDP Office of Malaysia from June 2023 until May 2025.
Yep.
So I have had a front row seat to see both perceptions and the reality of the enforcement effort. Let's take a quick look from the statistic perspective. Numbers of the compounded cases, and these numbers are publicly available in the Commissioner Office website.
Yep.
In 2018, there were 5 compounded cases.
Only 5.
Only 5. Then 2019, 2020, 2021, just 1 case each year.
Only 1.
Whereby in 2022, there was a small bump from 1 case to 6 cases.
Yep.
Now, fast forward to 2023. During my appointment, we started with 4 compounded cases in 2023. But in 2024, there was a big jump from 4 cases to 13 cases, or 13 compounded cases. So now, let's move to the numbers of prosecution case in court. From 2018 to 2023, the average was just only 1 case each year. However, in 2024, our office established a joint organized operation with Royal Malaysian Police, Cyber Security Malaysia, with a strong support from the Attorney General Chambers. We arrested 5 individuals which we suspected for illegal selling personal data in the dark web. So this is the first case in the country, and we already charged one of the individuals under Section 130 bracket 4 of the PDPA. So for those who still holding the myth, let me just say, if this tiger used to be toothless, I can assure you now, the tiger now been to the dentist. So this tiger doesn't sleep. It monitors, investigates, and take action.
I really love the momentum. I really love where we are going in. Hopefully, if there is still any public myth, all airs will be clear right now that enforcement is happening and that enforcement is coming strong, especially with the new amendment coming in right now. So, right now, I also want to move the scene a bit to actually what's happening in the legal practice as well. So, Kai, I mean, our department, we all know that PDP is our key practice area, one of the key practice areas that we focus a lot. So, I do know that in a couple of years ago, some companies, they are really ignoring PDP. A lot of time, our clients, they are typically MNC. They are complying with PDP just purely because of mandates from the headquarters, whether it's from Europe, from UK, or Singapore. Usually from Malaysia branch, they are just complying for the sake of complying of the instructions. Can you share what are the trends that you're seeing right now, especially this year following the new amendment?
I would say that the change is definitely very, very huge. Like you said just now, in the past, people and companies, data controllers and data processors, they take PDPA, and again, pardon me when I say this, they take PDPA to some extent as a joke. In the past, we had to go to our client and tell them that, hey, you are actually processing a lot of personal data. You are supposed to have a PDP notice.
Yeah.
Say, for example, a client of ours, they provide software, chat productivity software, just like your Microsoft Teams, and they don't even have a personal data protection notice on their website. So we had to tell them, hey, you should, because you are processing a lot of personal data. And to them, they just scoff it off and say, I never hear anything about enforcement.
And they think that we are trying to milk them.
Yeah, correct. They think that we are trying to build them a little bit more just to get some billing out of it. But no, we were genuinely telling them what is their obligation and what is their responsibility as a data controller, right? So in the past, what I'm trying to say is we had to convince people the importance of compliance with PDPA. And even then, many would just ignore us. Our advice would actually fall to deaf ear, right? But now the mindset and the approach of company is that they're actually afraid of PDPA.
Yep.
I dare say that. In a sense, they're worried that what if they are not in full compliance with the PDPA, and that might get them into trouble, because we have been sharing a lot about the enforcement actions that JPDP and the Commission Office are doing. And a lot of the companies, they would actually come to us and say, hey, can you come and look into our company's data processing activities? Where are we doing everything right?
Yeah.
Is there a way or is there room for improvement? Can you help us to achieve full compliance? So in fact, the number of inquiries and the number of engagements that we receive on a day-to-day basis when it comes to PDPA compliance, PDPA related matters, are actually through the roof right now. In fact, even foreign companies that are operating outside of Malaysia currently, they want to expand their footprint into Malaysia. Before they even set up their new company, they would call us up and ask us, hey, can you tell us what are the requirements under PDPA for us to comply with? We want to make sure that we are in full compliance, that our processes support the requirements and obligations of data controllers in Malaysia before we even come in. And mind you, these are cloud service providers from, say, Singapore, from various countries. So people are really taking PDPA seriously. I'm really, really glad to see this kind of change.
Yeah. So right now, Prof, let us go back to Fundamental 101. Because a lot of companies, they really want to comply with PDP law. But at the same time, they may not know what to do. They may not even have PDP notice. So how are they supposed to start? How are they supposed to even begin this PDP compliance journey? Can you maybe give them some very good insight, especially a practical one, so that they know how are they supposed to do, and then how are they supposed to fully comply with the whole law as a journey?
Yeah, spot on, Mr. Johnson. First of all, I think I want to bring the spirit of the act. It's all not about punishment. It's about shared responsibility on building a data protection culture in the country.
Yep.
So for those who just waking up to their obligation, don't panic. Start small and start smart. So if I could give a piece of my advice, is the first one is start to ask a basic question. Are you a commercial-based company? If you're not a commercial-based company, that means you are not bound by the law.
Correct.
As simple as that.
Yes.
if you are a commercial-based company, definitely you have to follow the rules.
Yeah.
Second, is your company involved in commercial transactions or not? Even if your company is not a commercial-based company, but your company still doing the commercial transaction,
Yes.
that particular transactions or business under your quote-unquote non-commercial company must follow the rules.
Yes. Such as some NGO as well, right?
Definitely. Correct. So next is, are you a data controller or not? If you are a data controller registered under 13 sectors, you have to register. It is a mandatory for you to register under the Commissioner Office. Next, after you answer this basic question, you have to do simple analysis on the current practices in your company with the 7 principles of PDPA. Like a general principle, have you established your privacy notice? How do you manage your consent mechanisms? Is it a legitimate purpose of collecting the data? Next, you can do a simple analysis of current practices in your organization against the 7 principles of PDPA. Like general principles, whether the personal data can be only collected and processed if the user gives consent to your company. And also the legitimate purpose of the collections. Next is notice and choice, for example. You must ensure that your company has a privacy notice. In your privacy notice, you must clearly explain what are the data that you are collecting, the purpose, where do you store the data, and so on. So after doing this analysis, I would highly recommend to all companies to attend PDPA training. Build the awareness and understanding of the Act. You must understand what you're supposed to do, what you are not allowed to do. So I think that one is a simple step for the company who want to start up with this PDPA understanding. Remember, the goal isn't 100% perfect by tomorrow, but the goal is to move forward with intention, one at a time, but at the right direction.
That's really amazing. I also want to make it very clear that before this recording, we have never rehearsed. We don't even have a script of actually of knowing what's the what are the answers are. And yet just now, actually from what we gathered from Prof, of course, number one, we need to understand whether the company they are doing commercial activities, or otherwise whether they involve any commercial transaction. If the answer is yes, then you'll be caught by PDPA. And then with that, then number one, you have to do a gap analysis to actually understand, are you in compliance with the law? Then the second step is you need to have PDP documents, such as a privacy notice and whatnot. And then after that, the last part, you should recommend the companies to actually attend PDP training. So with that, maybe Kai, you can actually elaborate a bit more about actually why do you think that these are effective? And also because I would say that whatever mentioned by Prof, of course, for legal practitioner, it's not something new for us. But for the listeners, for them, these are a new exercise. They may understand what M&A DD is, but they may know nothing about PDP gap analysis, in which it's quite a standard process overseas. But for Malaysia, to be honest, it's a very new thing. In fact, we actually model overseas approach implement in Malaysia, helping companies to actually comply with the law. So maybe you can elaborate a lot more about this.
Yeah, certainly. So whenever I'm asked to explain what is our process, what is the blueprint, the road or journey roadmap to compliance for PDPA, right? I like to think it as just like how you and I, when we are sick, we would go and see a doctor, right? When you go and see a doctor, you know perhaps you are unwell, you are sick, you maybe have some underlying issues, but you don't know exactly what it is. You just know that you are sick. You want to find out what is the underlying illness. So you go to a doctor, right? Doctor will do a full body checkup, perhaps a medical checkup for you. The doctor will scan your body, will take your pulse, will check your temperature. Essentially, the outcome is after the full check, doctor will tell you, okay, what's wrong with you? Maybe you are having a flu, you're having a cough, you have an inflammation somewhere. So that is very similar to the gap analysis that Johnson you mentioned just now, and also I'm very, very glad, Prof, you also mentioned gap analysis. Essentially, gap analysis is a process to help organization to find out what is wrong with the organization when it comes to personal data protection.
Exactly.
So the company definitely will have an existing suite of data processing activities, but those activities may not be, or rather, I would say certainly will not be in compliance, full compliance with the PDPA. Gap analysis will actually tell you point by point which obligation and which requirement under the law that are not being met by the company. Then point number 2, policy and document development. So let us go back to the example of going to see a doctor again. After the checkup, the doctor will actually prescribe you with medications or with a set of remedy of how so that you can get better, right?
Yes.
Doctors will give you medicine, maybe paracetamol, cough medicine, sore throat, lozenges, whatever. Essentially, doctors will, from the gap analysis exercise or the checkup, doctors would have already identified the underlying issues and treat it accordingly with the right and appropriate medicine. So let's say in the context of PDPA compliance gap analysis, we identified that a company is not in full compliance with the data retention principle. Company keeps data forever.
Yeah.
That's the most common thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the underlying issue. That is the point of non-compliance. Then we will tell the client, hey, you need to make sure that you purge your data periodically, or rather after you no longer need that particular set of data, because that is essentially what the seven principles under the PDPA say. So that is the medicine that we are giving to the client to tell them that this is what you need to do to comply. And at the same time, we will give you a data retention policy, a personal data retention policy. That policy will set out operationally and it will provide an operational guide to the company as to what they must do during the data lifecycle. So upon a certain point in time, these data sets are no longer to be used, are no longer in use by the company. It has to be purged. So that policy will be the so-called medicine, the medication that we give to the company. Now, lastly, compliance training. Typically, depending on how good your doctors are, after they give you the medicine, they will also tell you, assuming that the sickness that you have is maybe a little bit more peculiar. They will say, make sure that in the future, you don't shower immediately after you sweat, after you work out, or make sure you don't sleep too late, make sure you don't take cold shower. I'm making all that up, right? Essentially, doctors will tell you what you should be doing to avoid getting the same illness again. Compliance training is also can be think in that manner. Compliance training is also similar to that. Essentially, with the medication that we have given to the client and with our checkup, we will tell the client that how to implement all these processes and all these policies into your existing data processing activities so that you will stay compliant with the PDPA. And that's the purpose of compliance training. So essentially, that's the whole practical blueprint that I would normally like to use to share with our client what are the services that we provide and what are the objectives of each step.
Especially right, because all the time for compliance training for different industry, there are different core practice. So in other words, for example, how you train a hospital, how you train a bank will be totally different because they are getting different set of data and then they are under different core practice. So this is why a lot of time, even compliance training, they have to attend the right one as well. So right now, of course, I think that our episode will come to an end very soon. So we want to actually ask Prof the very last questions. So if you are able to give our listener out there one last piece of advice after listening to everything, because right now they finally understand the importance of PDPA, the whole entire myth that there's no enforcement has been fully broken. So if you are able to give them the one last piece of the golden advice, what would it be, Prof?
Thank you, Mr. Justin, for the questions. If I could leave just one piece of advice, it would be this. Treat personal data with the same level of care and respect as you would with your most valuable asset. This is because in today's digital economy, that's exactly what it is. For companies who just beginning their PDP journey, so don't wait until crisis or enforcement notice issued by the commissioner. Start with a mindset shift. Data protection is not a compliance burden. It is your responsibility to your customer, to your employee, and also to your business long-term sustainability.
Yeah.
Like I always say during my speech, it is not about compliance. It's all about protecting our personal data.
True.
You don't need to have everything perfect
Yep.
from day one. A culture of accountability, transparency, continuous improvement is the most.
Yep.
The law may evolve, technology may change, but the accountability of protecting the personal data will remain. So my last word is start small, stay consistent, and the most important thing is please take the first step.
Start now. All the listeners that you are listening to it right now, you hear it directly from Prof. Nazri, the former PDP commissioner. If you are not complying with the PDP law right now, the advice is start now. So today, we are going to wrap up our first episodes of this special edition, the Malaysia PDPA Authority, featuring none other than Prof. Nazri. And in the second and the third episode that we are going to jump in the next 2 weeks, we'll be talking a lot more about the DPO competency, a guideline that was just recently launched. And after that, we'll be going a lot deeper into data breach notification. And more than that, we'll be telling you exactly how the investigation will be carried out behind the scenes and what are the nitty-gritty, what are the details, what are the key insights that you should really implement, that you should really take note of. So please stay tuned, and if you have yet to subscribe to our the Legal Insight podcast produced by ASU, please subscribe and give us a follow. And please, if you enjoy this episode, please share it to your social media and your clients as well. Have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.